ladies, as I introduce some of them, you're going to wonder, how did they go from this major to the profession that they're in today? So I'm going to start with our first person. This is Captain Stephanie Martis. Captain Martis is from Tampa, Florida. She's a 2000 graduate of Bennett. Guess what? She's a biology major, biology chemistry major. How does a biology chemistry major go from that to become captain of the police force? Come on up, Captain Martis. She can tell us that. She can tell us that. But you're going to see what a liberal arts education can do for you, because you're going to learn stuff in different areas, and you're going to utilize the knowledge, but the fact that you want to learn more. So Captain Martis has a wonderful 13-year-old son who's going to be an astronaut Jackson, and I've known her for quite some time. She's my little sister, but she's a wonderful role model. Next we have another little sister. Now this sister, communications, she works at a radio station, and guess what she does now? She works at a funeral home. Ashley Jones, come on up. Ashley graduated from Bennett in 2009. We also have another young lady who is president of our Greensboro chapter of the National Running Association. She is a graduate also, as I think we all are, 2004, mass communications. Now she works for the city, you work for the city of Greensboro, right? So she can tell you all that she does in her profession. So come on up, Aisha Miller. The only reason I'm looking at my phone is to see if we got their resumes, information is on here that I'm really not. And the last person, Jacqueline Johnson, also mass communications major, but she works in human resources for Volvo Corporation. She's the class of 1990. So come on up. So I have some questions to ask them, and each one's going to speak briefly, and then we want to, leave time for you all to ask questions. So I'm going to start. I'll go backwards and forwards. Jackie, define what it means to be successful.
So when I think about the word success, I can give you the Webster definition, but when you think about the word success, you think about what that means to you personally, right? You define success. And so success can mean something different to each of you, but if I had to choose a definition, I would say that success for me is really living out my purpose, living out what I was created to do, and doing it fearfully, doing it wonderfully, and also leaving a footprint or a legacy or an impact on the society that I live in.
Aisha, same question.
My answer is similar to Jackie. So Oxford says that it is accomplishing the aim or purpose. And I would agree, but I think that it is your personal purpose that you're accomplishing. Fulfilling what God has called you to, walking in that purpose. And you'll notice that neither of us as far as happiness, because happiness is fleeting. So your purpose is the complete, success is the completion of you and what you are called to. And I also believe that it is wholeness, that the mentally, the physical, the spiritual, and academic needs, all of you. That's what's going to be successful.
Next.
I also agree. Success to me is finding a goal that you want to achieve, that goal. Also think that the goal that is your personal goal, not something that sister's goal, your brother's goal, your best friend, your friend's goal, is your personal goal, and achieving that goal is what I consider to be success.
Captain Martin?
I would say
I know this is not one of the questions, just nod your head. You also think success is pleasing God? Nod your head. All right. Next question. How did Bennett prepare you to maneuver and excel in a world where success requires many of us to be in environments where finding women of color are few and far between? Let's start with you, Captain Martin.
Bennett has given me the authority to be proud of who I am, to be proud to be the skin I'm in, and obviously you don't see a lot of black females in law enforcement. So without that sense of security in myself and who I am and what I know black women are capable of, I don't think I would be able to command a district of 102 officers with different personalities and different backgrounds and different views about life. So Bennett has truly prepared me to walk with my head held high and be strong in my beliefs and my faces, and also to be comfortable to be in a place where I may be the only one, but I have a voice. So make sure that you lean on your sisters, you lean on your faculty and staff, and you try to glean some of that strength from amazing women that surround you to prepare you, because the world is not nice. It's not easy, especially for a woman.
Next, Ashley.
I agree. I'm in the young mommy in the industry, so it's a challenge to be able to color. I really feel like Bennett did a great job of helping me to gain that confidence and to take that into my profession. Like I said, I'm in the young mommy in the industry, so I have that confidence that Bennett gave me. That I got that support from my Bennett big sister, mentors here, my teachers here, so that's definitely what has helped me to keep my head up high and to be confident and so Bennett has been great.
Sometimes say ACES, Academic Cultural Enrichment Series. So about a year ago, we had a campaign that we asked us to called Bonds and Memories. And I said, ACES, and everybody got pictures. And I said, yes, because what ACES did was introduce me to a plethora of things. Learn about their cultures, beliefs, opinions, facts. And so we just broadened my view. I bet people from all over the world come into Bennett because I'm originally from Philadelphia. While I was specifically Berkeley, there was often no love in the heart of our building. So my family often were secluded and off in our own little corners, wanted to stay safe and away from different things. And so when I came to Bennett, it was just a new exposure. And so as I left Bennett, I was often the only one in the room. I remember one time a white gentleman said, "She's so sophisticated, boy." I said, "I'm sophisticated," in the room. And he kind of looked at me. I said it in a joking way. However, I knew that that was the persona that I put out there. And so when it gave me that, it gave me the ability to be more confident because I expected new and different arenas when I walked into them. So I commanded the room every time. But I didn't do that before I was Miss Mass Communications, 2003. But so I think that it just really helps you begin to move into who you are and be developed because of the intimacy of the atmosphere and the like-mindedness of the people around you.
For me, it's important to put in context what I do for a living. So I am a human resources professional, HR business partner for Volvo Financial Services here. And so Bennett prepared me very well, but for most of my career, I've been the only African American female. There's been a lot of African Americans around me, but very few African American leaders. And that, to me, presents a different challenge, right? Because there are certain things that an individual contributor can do versus an African American leader. And so, although I felt Bennett prepared me well in terms of, interacting with various cultures and ACES and pledging a sorority and gaining some leadership skills, all of those things I took with me and they were transferable. But attending an HBCU, think about this. For 4 years, I'm around African American women, mostly African American administrators. So when I entered the world of work and I looked around me and I was the only African American, to be honest with you, that scared me a little bit. It's scary. It was frightened because I thought to myself, can I really be who I am? Or do I have to be like somebody else? And for years, I allowed that somebody else to define who I was until one day I got a mentor, and the mentor said, you need to be authentically who you are. You bring your authentic self to work. We hired you because of you. Not really because of the color of your skin, but we hired you because of you, and it was that day that was really an awakening for me. And so from that day forward, I've been able to navigate the corporate space. And being still in a male-dominated white male industry, I'm probably one of the few African American leaders. So I'll try to present from a different lens from my HR hat. So I am the person that if you applied for a position at Volvo, I am one of the people that will determine if you should work for Volvo. And so one of the things that I typically do, as well as our recruiting team, is we're going to go and we're going to check out online, whether it's Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. We want to know what your digital footprint looks like. We want to know who you've been connected to. We want to know what kind of pictures you've placed out there. We want to know, are you getting into arguments that you shouldn't be getting into online? You know, everybody has a friend that will post something about religion, politics, and what we want to do is we feel like we have to comment on every single thing somebody posts. Well, all of those things will follow you for the rest of your life, and we are detectives behind the scene. We want to know if you're going to represent our brand well. So you have to always think about everything that you post, everything that you say. It's creating your persona, it's creating your personal brand, and you have to say, what do I want people to see about me when they go to my page? That's your electronic resume, pretty much. Whether also LinkedIn is another one. All of those social media sites should be very clean, especially if you are applying for a job. Mark your pages private if you don't want anybody to really see what's on there, but be very cognizant about what you post. Just, again, always think about, this is my brand. This is what people see. I don't know you if I get 500 resumes. I know nothing about you. I know your experience, but guess what? Everybody else sent in their resumes as well. What sets you apart? So that's what we're looking for. So just be very cognizant. It's very important to have a clean, electronic footprint.
All right, so if you look on the back of a lot of toiletries, they say for personal use only. And that's what I would say is my response. Some things are just for personal use. If you're in a relationship, that is between you and your partner. It doesn't need to be hashed out all over social media. I think that this Generation Z, which is what you guys fit into,
you're not afraid to express yourself. You are woke, right? You're not afraid to turn up and turn out and let everybody know what you think and what you feel about things. You're not as reserved, I'll say, as some of us were during our time. And that's great. That may be who you are, but you need to have a place for it, as she was saying. So those personal things, you want to keep them that way. You know, my husband does social media, I do social media, but we don't. Boy, my husband made me mad today. I just want y'all to know, hey, Facebook family, hey, unnecessary. That is personal. So you just want to remember that before you get ready to put something out there. Is this personal? Is this private? Should I keep this to myself? Or is this something worthy of sharing that I wouldn't care if the HR professional knew, or my pastor knew, or my mother knew? Because once you put it out there, it's no longer private. So I think that that's the best way to handle relationship things. And then the sexting. I have a 13-year-old. He does not sext. But my point is, he had a little girl that liked him, and he begged and begged if he could be on Snapchat, and I was like, sure. So, you know, I gauge his screen time and usage and all of that. And I said, I don't really like these comments this little girl's making. I don't like these posts, these pictures. So we're going to go ahead and block that. And later, about 2 weeks, he came to me and said, Mom, yeah, I don't think I like her anymore. She's kind of one of those wild girls. And it was funny the way he said it, because he was questioning if he was using the right term. But he had saw some things displayed and said that she was doing publicly. So just, again, you know, you want to keep thinking about that as you put things out there.
I just want to add, I don't think we're trying to put the fear into you all about being on social media. Just like they were saying, just to be more cognizant of what you're posting. Like you mentioned, you know, your relationships should be between you and that person. It should not be on social media. So again, we're not trying to say don't use social media, it's awful. No, we're not saying that, just to be more cognizant about what you're posting, how it can affect you down the line. And also, posting something and just because you delete it doesn't mean that it goes away permanently. It's still somewhere out there, and people in the HR department can pick that up, and that may mean the difference of you getting a job, not getting a job. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. Yes, they do.
It's graduate schools. It's if you play a sport. You know, there are recruiters. Every field that you could possibly go into, they want to make sure that you're going to represent their brand in their school or place of employment very well.
Coming from a law enforcement perspective, you know, it's extremely important because we have investigators that do criminal background checks, and they do all types of checks that it goes beyond the realm of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have the thing called polygraph. Okay, so not just social media. If you are thinking or aspiring to be in law enforcement of any type of government or federal job, don't do anything that you can't pass a polygraph test. So keep that in the back of your mind. Okay? Will this come back to bite you? Because maybe you think no one knows about it, but one day you may be polygraphed about it. And you cannot control the physiological effects that your body goes through when you are being deceptive. So just think about that. Okay? And like everybody said, once it's out in the web, you may delete it, you may deactivate your account, but that does not mean that it's gone. Okay, so you just have to be careful. So just take precautions, be careful, be mindful. Don't let your page be wide open. Don't let people post on your page. You know, there's a little feature where you can approve posts, so you don't have just random people posting things on your page. Take that extra precaution. I'm not saying shut down social media, because I have family all over the nation, so I use social media to, you know, connect with my family and show pictures of my son and all that kind of stuff. But you just have to be careful about what you put out there, because it can come back to bite you.
I also just wanted to say, being careful about who you are accepting as friends on your social media pages. It's not everybody's your friend. So just also something to think about.
And one more thing, it can kind of blend into the lines of criminal activity if you are going back and forth with somebody on a social media site, and then y'all are getting kind of heated, and then threats are being made. We have, charged and prosecuted people for cyberbullying, communicating threats, harassment, stalking. Okay, so it can fall into the lines of criminal activity. So just be careful if you get in a heated debate. Don't go back and forth with people on social media. It's just not a smart thing to do.
This must be a hot topic.
It is. I wanted to add one thing. This just happened, real story. 2 days ago, this young lady applied for a position at our company. And she was I think she graduated in December. And what surfaced is that she got into a verbal altercation with someone, and someone was recording her. And this was on a college campus. And sometimes we're in the heat of the moment. Somebody says something that we don't like, and then we respond. But then sometimes we get out of character, right? And then we say, well, it was that person's fault. And so that video surfaced, and we saw it. And we were getting ready to extend an offer to this young lady, and we rescinded the offer. We decided not to. The reason we decided not to is because this was a recent incident that occurred. I can understand if it was the person's freshman year, but this just happened, and what that said to us is that you could say something to this person that they don't like, and they don't have self-control. They don't know how to meter or monitor themselves at all. And so the offer was rescinded, and a real life story. So it just gets very real. And so I wanted to share that with you today.
I think for all of us, no matter what, whether we want to share with our children or younger people, I think we share some pertinent information. Last question for the panel, and we're going to ask you a question as time permits. As a woman of color in the corporate world, even in the city of your own country, the rules at work tend to be different. There are so few of us in the corporate trenches or in other positions, other places. And we also are faced with the double bias of being a woman and a woman of a different race or color. While speaking up and raising our voices may be encouraged for everyone else, they may be interpreted differently for women of color, hence the angry black woman, and other stereotypes of the same kind. Based on your experience, what words of advice can you offer us as we prepare to network and promote ourselves in the workplace?
This is a loaded question. It's loaded. Let's start with, and I had like a self-actualization moment, probably, I'm 41 now, so probably around the age of 35, okay? So a lot of the ladies up here, we're trying not to be preachy to you because we've had our own journeys in life, but if I can prevent or shed some light on some of the obstacles that you may have growing up, I'm gonna try to impart that wisdom. So I had an epiphany that from the moment we take our first breath on this earth, we are programmed by society to go through this. Black women, in my opinion, are programmed by society to think that in order to become a woman, a black woman, we have to go through this suffrage journey. We're supposed to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. We are supposed to suffer, and we are not supposed to ask for help. And it is self-destructive, it's a false narrative, and it's a lie. Okay? We can suffer, but we can lean on our sisters. We are taught we can't be in the same space without arguing and not getting along. There's no such thing as black women having relationships and supporting each other. It's false. That's a false narrative. It's a lie. Okay? I'm a captain of a police department. We have almost 800 sworn officers. There's only one other black female captain in the police department. I got promoted because I'm a black female. That's a lie. And sometimes the people who are feeding us these false narratives are the people that look like us. Okay? So if somebody comes up to you, if you accomplish something, a great accomplishment, and somebody says, well, don't take this the wrong way, but they're about to feed you a false narrative, and you can at that point either correct them or go along with the false narrative. It doesn't mean you're angry. It doesn't mean you're bitter. It means you're strong, you're educated, and you're confident. So with the false narratives that we are inherently coated with from the moment we take our first breath, you do not have to believe the hype. Yes. You don't. I can be confident, educated, forceful when I need to be, but it doesn't make me angry. And I refuse to be labeled as such. Because I'm a mother, I'm an auntie, I'm a soror, I'm a godmom, and the list goes on and on. So don't fall into the false narratives and let that stifle your success. Don't let it dampen or darken your shine, because you can walk on water and you will be put in a box of a false narrative that people will believe whether you are perfect, walk the straight and narrow or not. Okay? So you have to stand firm. And I know there's some people walking around in the police department that absolutely don't like me, and it's okay. But guess what? I'm going to treat them fairly. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to correct people when they are wrong. But I'm going to be respectful. So I'll let you decide on how you want to label me, but I know who I am. Okay? So you have to be firm on that. And you have to be firm on the belief that we are here for each other. We are responsible for one another. Whether I like you or not, I am responsible for you. And I will not believe the false narrative.
Okay. I like that. I just want to add to that about not falling into the trap of the quote-unquote angry black woman. I think Bennett did a great job of, like I said earlier, helping me to build my confidence in myself and carrying that into the male-dominated industry that I'm working in. There are times where you can easily fall into that trap of the angry black woman, but it is important that you are assertive, okay? You have to be assertive. But that doesn't mean being the angry black woman. Be assertive, maintain professionalism at all times, because there are people who are looking for you to mess up and to fall into that category of the angry black woman. So, just be careful of that. Also, like the idea that, we all need to stick together and build each other up. And Bennett has done a good job with that as well, sisterhood.
Okay, so I wrote notes so that I wouldn't forget any of the things that I wanted to share with you guys. But I will say, to be quite honest, shortly thereafter my time here at Bennett, I can profess that I was likely an angry black woman, because I had struggled. I was a single parent when I was here. I got overlooked, I got stepped on, I got ostracized, even by some of my sisters here during the time, because I was indeed different. My day looked like me getting up at about 5:30 every morning, getting my boys ready. When I first came here, and the transit system hasn't gotten much better, but I was used to Philadelphia transportation. You just get on the bus and you go where you have to go, and you didn't have to wait an hour. So I would have to get them up, get ready, we go to the bus stop and wait. And there's a gentleman, he actually attends my church now. He was my bus driver, and he would wait for me sometimes because he would see me walking with the boys. But I would get on the bus, drop one off right around the corner from here, drop the other one off at what used to be called the Children's House. It's now Martin Dixon Intergenerational Center. And then I would come to class. So I would have to carry my day's worth of clothes and books and everything, and I would just plop myself in the suite that they had for off-campus students. I would go to class, I would go to work study, I would go back to class, I would go to work study, I would go back to class, I would go to my real job. Then I had someone pick up the boys, then I would meet them, feed them, and then I would go back to work. So by the time I ended my tenure here at Bennett, I was utterly exhausted. So I was a little bit angry. I was frustrated that Dad didn't do right. I was frustrated that I didn't get lent the helping hand that I thought I deserved. And so I had this, I'm going to prove it to everybody mentality. So I would get into my profession. I would learn what it took to get ahead and to be successful. And I didn't step on anybody to get there, but I wasn't necessarily helping others because I had to worry about myself. And maybe about the same time, because Stephanie and I are the same age, you just have epiphanies and you have moments in life where it's like, wow, wait a minute. So I learned that to be brilliant, bold, and beautiful didn't have to be the angry black woman, because I was all of that, and I presented that to people. But I just needed to change my presentation a little bit. And so I began to finesse myself. I stopped flat ironing my hair and straighten it, because let me tell you, if I had a meeting, honey, I'd be like, hey, I need my hair fixed. Well, you just got your hair done today, but it's got to be laid for this meeting right here, because they got to know it from head to toe. I got to be right. And then it was like, wait a minute, this is exhausting. And I also had something going on physically, recovering from a sickness, so my hair just needed a break. So I was like, okay, let me do something different. And I said, I'm gonna lock my hair. My hairdresser said, you will not, because it is not gonna be all in place and super neat. You're gonna have a fit. I said, no, I'm gonna do it. This is a total change. And so you'll hear people say when you get locks, it's a journey. And indeed it is. And so during that time, as I began to walk into the room, I was entering the place where I was in education and then moved to nonprofit, and I was often the only one. And now they started looking at me crazy when I came with this twisted hair, like, well, what happened to her? We thought she had good sense. And I had a woman, my boss, who said, Aisha, bring in your procurement card and your receipts. I want to make sure you're not compromised. I was immediately offended because I knew what she was saying. Because at the time, I was driving my favorite car, then have a different one. But I was driving this black Audi. I was sleek. I came in, dressed the part, looked the nine. I want to make sure you're not compromised. Whatever do you mean, white woman? She said, I see what you drive, and I see how you, I had a lady that I worked with, and she was stealing from the agency. I said, oh, I understand. Here are my receipts. Here is my card. I'm following the grant as I'm supposed to, and I'm doing everything in line. And she said, oh, I just wanted to make sure. I said, no, what you really wanted to say was, because I am a black woman, I drive this car, I look this part, it's not possible for me not to be skimming off the top. But I assure you, my integrity and my ethics are not for sale. So here are your receipts. But while you're at it, here's your job. Because I was not for sale. And so she said, oh, she's so angry. That's what she told the board. No, I'm not angry. I'm going to set a standard. And what you are doing here is discrimination against me because of what you think. And so I did walk away from that job and walked into a much better one. But the point is, I do think, as a friend of mine says, we all have PTSD, post-traumatic slave disorder, because it's inherent. It continues a cycle if you allow it. So at that point in my life, the cycle was over. And I was not angry, but I was bold, I was brilliant, and I was demonstrating my beauty. And that's what I would say for all of you to do.
Excellent, excellent. So I'm going to answer it again from a human resources perspective, if you will. What I want to say is we are doing the darn thing in corporate America now, and I'm talking about black women. The whole angry black woman term, that exists. There are two types of black women that I often see in corporate America. There's the black African-American woman who is very confident, very poised, will get you told, but she does it in a way whereby it's not offensive, it's not rude, but it's professional. She rises to the top, she looks around, she gets mentors to help her move forward and move to the top. And then there's the black woman in corporate America that you see if somebody says something to you that you perceive to be incorrect, you pop off. And what I mean by that is you go off, and that's what they mean, the head rolling, the eyes rolling, the head roll, all of that, and you don't realize you're doing it, but it happens. So that's where they start labeling you as the angry black woman, where you're just offended, they see anger. And so to Stephanie's point earlier is that you can label me what you want to label me, but you have to really be cognizant of what you project. I used to handle things totally different when I first got into corporate America. If you said something to me, it was, I'm going to get you told, because Bennett taught me to allow my voice to be heard. Sometimes I just took that a little too far. And so that almost cost me a few positions as well. And so I surrounded myself with a lot of mentors, and I had mentors that would get all in my stuff and would tell me that you're wrong, your perspective is wrong. I mean, they would just get all in my stuff. Well, that helped me because they weren't trying to coddle me. They were trying to help me to understand my brand and how I was projecting myself and how to respond appropriately. And so I want to say a lot of times it's not really about the angry black woman anymore in terms of you trying to overcome certain things in the workplace. Really what you have to contend with mostly is office politics. What you think is because you're black that you're not getting an opportunity, a lot of times it's because of office politics. You're the most qualified, but it might go to the person that's less qualified because they have attended the office functions outside of work, they know the boss, they've tried to smooth, they've tried to do all of those things, which we have to do more of from a networking perspective. You still need to be true to who you are. Don't compromise, but be true to who you are. But look at the successful people in the workplace, women of color, women that are not of color, and try and ask yourself a question. What are they doing that I'm not doing? What are they doing, and how can I rise to the top as well? It might require you to shift a little bit more, but I wouldn't buy into the narrative either. Just watch your tone in terms of how you speak, but be true to who you are, and allow your voice to be heard respectfully and professionally.
And I want to say, just to answer what they saying, they didn't get to their position after that. Because one of them, you got there because you kissed. No, we got there because we were bold, brilliant, and beautiful. And I appreciate Sister being so real today, so real. And I hope this is helpful. So now, a few minutes, if you have a question you want to ask, would you stand up? Well, first of all, raise your hand. Okay, you have to find yourself. Okay, raise your hand and then stand up and ask your question. We have one here next.
Okay. Hi, my name is Janila Johnson. I'm a sophomore political science major from Oakland, California. And my question for you all is, from what you can recall, how was your mental health at Bennett, and how did you continue to push forward despite the trials and tribulations you encountered while attending Bennett?
I can answer it. We probably each had different experiences. I was 4 hours away from home, and so I was this Southern Belle, but I had a lot of girls. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. I had a lot of girls from Augusta, Georgia here, and we would always uplift each other. There would be hard days. There would be trials and tribulations that each of us experienced, but I leaned a lot on my sisters, my sorority sisters, my Bennett sisters, my sisters from Augusta. When one was down, the other person was there to help each other. We didn't fight, we didn't fuss, we just helped each other along the way. When one would get depressed, when one didn't have, if one of my sisters didn't have and I had something, I'm gonna make sure that they had it. The one thing that we typically, and I'm glad you asked the question about mental health, we're taught as black women a lot of times not to seek counseling, not to seek help. And that is buying into a false narrative as well. It's like if you see a need to want to see a counselor or visit a counselor, to me, that's a sign of strength. And I think you go for it and you go see a counselor as often as you need to, but also lean on your sisters. We're family.
I would say while I was at Bennett, my mental health was not so good. It's 1,000 times better now because I was stuffing the stuff. I wasn't regularly talking to anybody. Like I said, my situation was a little bit different being an off-campus student. So if anyone here is an off-campus student, I admonish you, get connected. Get connected through an organization, get connected with a professor, peers that you feel like are like-minded, because that will help you. They will help draw you out of those seasons of depression and sadness and frustration and all of that comes. All of that is natural. You should have those things. That's how we're made, but it's all in how you deal with them. So, and I know President Walsh is a big proponent of making sure that we have great mental health as women of color. And just as people. But I would say also, like she said, get counseling, get support, whatever you need. Don't be afraid to ask. That is indeed a false narrative that you don't need help, you're strong enough, you can do it. I'm a strong black woman. You ask people, what do you think about, describe yourself. I'm a strong black woman. Are you really? And you crying on your pillow every night because you won't address those issues that are really within. And then the second thing I would say that where Bennett helped me, I was in the college choir and Ms. Johnson was just a joy. But we would come here and oftentimes we would pray and we would release. And so the God that is here at Bennett College, it may be the time that you need to find him and gain a closer relationship. I'm a youth minister, and one thing I know is that this generation will be one of the first generations to say, if I follow God, it's because I had a personal relationship, as opposed to I'm walking on the heels of my mom or my dad's relationship. So let that be a driving force towards helping you with your mental health as well.
Well, I was just going to say, when I first started here at Bennett, I had a difficult time transitioning from, I came from a predominantly white school, so coming here, it was a transition for me. I got picked on a little bit for my choice in music and maybe the sound of my voice. But when I found my mentors, my Bennett big sister, and when I became more involved in my major, that's what changed things for me. So that's my experience. I know everybody has their own experience, their own situations that have occurred, but that's my personal experience. That's what I experienced.
And real quick, I think the growing theme here is just the connections. This is a cornucopia, if you say, of a place where you can flourish with the connections that you have with your Bennett sisters. I have my freshman roommate, we are besties to this day. You know what I mean? So it's the connections that will get you through. You will always have trials and tribulations. It's the world we live in. It's adulthood. It's just, you can guarantee that you will have trials and tribulations for the rest of your life. When I was here at Bennett, I lost my father. I had a stillborn child. I went through depression, postpartum. A lot of those things that I went through, it didn't define me because I had the connections with my Bennett sisters and my faculty and my family. So don't shun the connection. It's easy when you get depressed to kind of go off on your own and just kind of separate yourself from everybody, but your saving grace will be the connections that you make on campus.
Hi, good morning. My name is Taylor Adkins. I'm a junior interdisciplinary studies major from Nashville, Tennessee, and I currently serve as the 40th Miss Bennett College. So my question, first of all, Sister Ashley, I need to know where you got that suit. Second of all, so Sister Aisha touched on it a little earlier, but how do you all address and deal with either blatant aggressions or microaggressions in your fields?
passive aggressive people. Sorry.
I was going to say, I mean, that's in any field. I know someone mentioned about office politics, and I mean, that's going to be wherever you are. You're going to have to deal with the office politics. You're going to have to deal with, I hate to keep saying this, but being a female in a male-dominated industry, you're going to have to find ways to deal with it. Not maintain professionalism always, being assertive always. I think those are the things that you should definitely keep with you, because it'll help throughout life. And if you're in corporate America, if you're owning your own business, anything, I mean, you're always going to need to have that. And what was the other part of your question? I'm sorry. Oh, my suit. My suit. Oh, thank you. I got it from Dillard's. So, yeah.
I think you might have to speak for the group on that question. Let me ask you, ladies, is this something that has been helpful to you today? Could there be other opportunities for maybe smaller groups? Maybe there might be some young ladies who are interested in certain fields that we can plan, like mini sessions where maybe you might be interested in HR. We can have someone else who are in HR, some of you are interested in sitting with them and talk law enforcement or other disciplines. But that's one of the things that Ms. Johnson and I are going to be working on with mentoring, with alumni, and other people in the community that will help you navigate your profession and other things. So we want to thank you today for being here. Again, we hope it's helpful to you. And Ms. Johnson, do you have any announcements today?
So would you all join us in the dining room so that we could continue the conversation, sit at the table with you guys and talk more?
Sure. She wants to know, would you continue the conversation? Absolutely.
Let's thank our panelists.
Thank you.
And you did this that everybody can do different programs. I want to especially thank Mr. Gatlin here, that it will be one of the with the foresight. Okay, so I did dismiss.
The panelists are dismissed.
We have some gifts for our panelists today. On behalf of your alma mater, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being here.
That's so sweet. Thank you so much.
Here's your water.
Have a great rest of your day, ladies.
Hey y'all, I just have a few announcements and then y'all can leave. So first announcement, did someone lose their key to their BMW?